We all had our favorite toys as kids, and for some of us, the fun never got old. We recently caught up with two grown-up collectors who have carried the love of their favorite toys into adulthood.
When kids grow up, become adults, and they long for things of their childhood, the hero type of play is one of the first things in their mind.
It just brings you back to childhood. And that's basically it. I do it because it just reminds me of childhood memories.
Steve Rego is an avid fan of the Star Wars movies. As a kid, he started collecting Star Wars toys and figures. As he grew older, the collection expanded from a child's pastime into a full-blown hobby.
I have my originals, and I always loved Star Wars. And the reason I collect Star Wars to begin with is it just brings you back to childhood. I still watch the movie. I must have watched that movie about 150 to 200 times at least by now, even more maybe. I mean, who knows? And I collect. It brings you back, and it's a nice hobby. It's a safe hobby, and I just like to do it.
Darryl DePriest took his love of G.I. Joe and made a career out of it. As director of marketing for G.I. Joe at Hasbro, Darryl's love for the classic G.I. Joe of his youth helps him introduce the action figure to a new generation.
The nature of any collectible goes back, I think, really to a nostalgia for something that people enjoyed as a kid. I myself, I don't collect just G.I. Joe. I collect comic books and other things that I enjoyed from my childhood that made me happy when I was a kid. So I think today's G.I. Joe collectors look at G.I. Joe as something that brings them enjoyment, remembering great times. I'm very delighted to, kind of sow the seeds of G.I. Joe to a new generation. And down the road, maybe there'll be a new generation of collectors too that are brought into the hobby.
With the market equally divided between kids and collectors, we asked DePriest who Hasbro targets when designing their latest incarnation of G.I. Joe.
G.I. Joe targets really a dual market. First and foremost, we like to make authentic products. Authentic either military or policeman or fireman products. We broadly celebrate heroism in uniform across a wide range. We make them authentic to appeal to those collectors who do want the most cutting edge, detailed, realistic products. But then we also make sure that there's a play value in them. There's a kid-friendly kind of essence to every single set that kids, that kind of stuff resonates with kids. They want to be able to take their Joe out in the yard and play with them and get them dirty and get them muddy. So while they're authentic, they're also tough and they're durable.
If you go to a toy store now, you walk down an action figure aisle and the toys are made, they're not made to be played with anymore. I mean, when you look at them, the artwork and the sculpting on them and the detail, they're almost made not to be played. And it's not just for the collector. I think it's just a sign of the times too that kids grow up a little bit faster, so they don't play with the toys. And there's like a definite age difference from toys that are made up to like kids that are like 7 or 8 years old, and then there's like nothing in between anymore, it seems, and it goes right up to collector's toys.
Pop culture trends come and go, but G.I. Joe has remained popular since its introduction in 1964.
G.I. Joe has changed with the times, but it's always represented American heroes, and that's something that kids have always responded to, have always taken to heart. So while other trends in pop culture kind of come and go, G.I. Joe's always been there in the mainstay, continually reinvented for a new generation of kids.
Even though Steve and Darryl may have some valuable items in their collections, they both haven't forgotten why they started collecting toys in the first place.
Collect for the fun of it. Collect what you want to collect. Don't collect what everybody says you should have. And just enjoy it. Don't let it drive you crazy.
I think it's a great time to be a collector. Speaking as a collector myself, I think that right now we're experiencing kind of a golden age of action figures. We're seeing more different types. We're seeing some of the boundaries being pushed in terms of articulation. We're introducing this fall a super articulated G.I. Joe that has more points of articulation than ever before, and yet it's tough and durable, and you can drag him through the mud and basically do anything to him. You're seeing increased attention to detail and piece count. It's fun to work on these products. but I think it's just as fun to be a collector and just enjoy the richness and the variety that's out there.